Thank you for listening to this episode of the Kindness Rebellion. On this episode, I spoke with Ben Curtis from the Dude You're Getting Well podcast. This was an awesome conversation. I loved talking to Ben. I was on his podcast, Dude You're Getting Well, so make sure to check that out. In this episode, we talked about his experience as, the face of Dell Computers and how that went for him and kind of the fallout and how he picked up the pieces and learned to grow from those experiences. It was a wonderful conversation. He has immense insight on well-being and especially emotional well-being, which is what we talked about a lot. And also we talked about how masculinity is perceived in our own lives and how we can kind of grow from masculinity. And this is a conversation really for everybody. That was something he was kind of clear about, is that masculinity and how it incorporates into our lives isn't just a male or female thing or even a non-binary thing. It's for everybody. It was just such an awesome conversation. So make sure to let us know that you liked it by liking, sharing, and subscribing. And make sure to give him a follow as well. Thanks so much. This is a podcast about rejecting tyranny and oppression by cultivating both systemic and individual change. I believe the only way to create this kind of monumental change is to inspire understanding, love, and kindness. From there, we can work to embody these essential values in our cultural systems and in our individual lives. My hope is that by effectively communicating with anyone and everyone, we can establish a shared vision for humanity and explore new ways of living to build a better world for all of us. I'm your host, Nathan Jones, and this is the Kindness Rebellion. Thank you so much for coming on to the Kindness Rebellion, Ben. I really appreciate having you on here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me,
Awesome.
Nathan.
Of course. I absolutely loved the conversation that we had on your podcast, Dude, You're Getting Well. It was such a really enlivening conversation for me, and it was great to have that experience with you. And I really enjoy your podcast, and I want to invite all of my listeners to please listen to your podcast, and they can access it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm assuming pretty much anywhere
Yeah,
you can get
anywhere
podcasts,
you
right?
listen. Yeah, it
Sweet.
should be there.
Awesome.
And it was a
So
pleasure to have you on the Dude You're Getting Well.
awesome.
I always love to support kindness. I don't think there's enough of it in the world. And as Martin Luther King said, only light can, darkness can't drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And I really believe kindness is part of bringing that light to this world that needs it so much right now.
Nice. Oh, I love that you said that. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Well, to get us started. I'd love to have you just kind of like introduce yourself a little bit, and as well as like the Lions Den that you do as well, and just kind of what your ambitions are within this space of podcasting, and as well as what you do with the Lions Den.
Cool. Okay. Well, the reason I've created a podcast, for those of you who don't know, I was the Dude You're Getting a Dell guy. I was the face of Dell Computers from 2000 to 2003. And I was in college at that time studying acting on an acting scholarship at NYU. With that money, I moved with the Dell money. I moved into the financial district, which where I did a personal growth and transformation workshop at an organization called Landmark, and it completely changed the way I thought about my life. Really opened up a lot of new possibilities, and then within a month of that, that area became, which was my backyard, basically became ground zero. So I lived a block and a half from the World Trade Center, and being famous, being in school full time at NYU, like working my butt off, and making a lot of money, and then being really, really sick from that, and unknowingly so, was not a great recipe for growth.
Yeah.
I had undiagnosed PTSD, and I really turned to drugs and alcohol to self medicate. I didn't know all that at the time, and then I got arrested, and it was nationally televised. And the saying was, "Dude, you're getting a cell." Cell phones were still new, so this was a jail cell, right? And I had my mugshot. Actually, check this out.
Oh,
So I
nice.
don't know if you can see this, but this is actually the dude you're getting. This is the one of
That's
the
the headline.
articles from that time, and I put up there just to remember like how far I've come. And well, I'll put it back up later. But not to haunt me, but to use, I've turned my pain into my purpose. And I realized
Mm,
that how sensitive I was basically from all of this work. I say all this that to say that I was struggling with so many different things emotionally, mentally, physically, financially. I became unhireable. I was blacklisted after getting arrested from the acting industry. Even today, I mean, I'm at the top of my game acting wise. I've done so many films and TV, and still, um, like I haven't gotten that next level up with agents, right? So
mm,
it's an opportunity to really do that, and find the right fit for that. But I'm saying all this because I learned that a lot of the suffering I was going through was optional, and that
mm,
I learned to be a victim of my life. And as
mm,
I healed through this stuff, I saw that I needed help, couldn't do it alone. I thrived in groups, and the healing happened so much stronger that way. And I really benefited from having a mentor and or coach and or therapist.
mhm.
Still to this day, I have all three.
Nice.
And I looked into being a therapist. I love to help people. I've been a personal trainer, a yoga instructor,
Mhm,
meditation teacher, an athlete, professional actor, right? But I wanted to go deeper with people, and acting was so much. I can create my own work, but I also, a lot of the industry is you're at the effective agents and the casting directors and the whole process to even get the job, right? So I just
mhm,
decided to just start looking at self care as a career,
mm,
and doing what I love is part of that. And um, I couldn't see myself sitting in a therapist's office all day, every day, listening to people. I really wanted to get proactive and like in there with people. Like, let's shake
mhm,
it up and see what happens together. And then I
mhm,
realized over time, I started training as a coach. I went back to Landmark. I trained as a coach. I train a lot of places as a coach, as a trauma facilitator, doing acting, like working with my body from head to toe. I've studied so many different modalities of theater and performing arts, and now healing arts,
mhm,
yoga, meditation, all of those things, theta healing. I'm a certified theta healer. I've now begun becoming an animal communicator just because of my intuitions developed that way.
mhm,
So all of these things I've used to basically, I decided coaching it became a perfect fit. I
mm,
could make content for people every day. I could be with people, and they could be with me, and it could be a growing process. And
mm,
coaches changed my life more than even therapists, because they really had me get accountable for stuff that I might
mm,
hide from therapists and things like that. And it's the difference is with coaches and therapists. I don't think one's better than the other, but I needed someone to really hold me accountable and
mhm,
have actions. And even if it was the way I was going to talk to myself that week,
mm,
and then I found also with groups, I found men's work in recovery, and that just looks like men working together with specific goals and structure for healing and safety that allowed growth
mm,
and allowed honesty. And so now I facilitate those groups. So that's what the Lion's Den is. So this is all to say, this is how and why I became a coach, and
mhm,
that I've really taught from experience. And I've worked mostly with men because I am male presenting. You know,
mhm,
look, it's anyway, I'm responsible for who I am, and I try to work with that. But at the same time, I've worked so much through trauma. I've worked with veterans,
mhm,
um, and I just saw the importance of the work and showing up for people. And then suddenly, my every area of my life got better too. My career, my acting career, my music career. I have a band with my wife called Dirty May,
nice.
and we're actually playing a big festival tomorrow. We're playing 3 festivals around the country this month in
Hey,
October.
congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
And all this is growing. And so I do this because I want to show up for people, and I know what it's like to have someone there for you, for me. and the difference that's made in my life. And sure enough, I have testimonial after testimonial of really being able to, I mean, I've developed tools over time and personal methods to really help people grow. And it starts with self-care. And
Mm.
that's what the Lion's Den is all about. It's a 10-week men's group virtually. I have guys from all over the country, actually Canada too now, and internationally. And
Mm-hmm.
we meet in small groups and we just hold space for each other and we hold each other accountable. We celebrate each other. We support each other. And we have wisdom of not just my coaching and tools and healing modalities, but also of the entire group.
Mm.
And
That's
we all
awesome.
learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lions Den is soon going to be part of Dude School, which I'm all branding because I
Mm.
turned my life around from being the Dell dude to kind of the well dude now.
Nice.
So I came up with a hashtag dude you're getting well, and I'm turning it into a book, and I'm turning it into, it's my podcast now, and I talk to leaders all over the world about how they take care of themselves and how they struggle with self-care and what they
Mm-hmm.
do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're running a huge business in today's day and age and you have a family and responsibilities um and the pressures of society and everything we're dealing with, it can be a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
now, just out of my commitment, Dell has brought me back 20 years later. I work with them. And I also lead, actually, with this organization, Golden. I'm wearing their
Nice.
shirt today. I teach corporate workshops globally now on self care for success.
Nice.
And that's my motto today: self care equals success. Because if we've got to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we cannot show up fully for any area of our life. And
Mm.
we don't know how to do that today because even social media and blue lights and all the technologies we have, while they're beautiful, they keep us stimulated all the
Mm-hmm.
time, keep us on. And so, it's really helping to turn back to nature now and people
Mm.
tuning back into the seasons and the moon. And um, so I also turn my clients, even like, the biggest CEOs, back towards nature,
Nice.
and towards healing themselves. So um, that's kind of the full package. But feel free
Yeah.
to ask me anything from
That's
there. But that's
amazing.
that's why I do what I do, and
Awesome.
I also believe in doing what I love as part of my self care.
Mm-hmm.
So my acting career still, I'm
Mm-hmm.
voiceover booth here, and I'm still on TV, and I still travel with my band and my wife. We have business meetings, we have band meetings, we have coaching meetings, and I have a
Mm-hmm.
team. I don't do it alone. I have an
Yeah.
assistant, I have a producer, I have an advisor, I have a coach, I have a therapist, I have a couples counselor.
Mm.
Um, so I really believe in the future of work is non-monogamous, and that we've really got to
Mm.
work together if we're going to grow and heal this planet. And
Nice.
you know, anyone who does anything great, I don't think does it alone. And
I agree.
I really, it's just been about like learning to love myself, and I think that's part of the kindness. Like learning to
Mm.
be kind to myself allows me to be kinder to others. When I'm
Mm.
not in alignment with myself, as most of the time, I mean, think about it: when you haven't slept well or eaten properly, or you've been depressed or something, you're so much nastier than people in your life
Yeah.
sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because you treat yourself that way.
Yeah. It's difficult
So
to show up
if
for people the way they need.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
if you start to like really work on yourself a little bit, like even just a few minutes a day, just taking time just to like listen to your body, or just
Mm-hmm.
listen to whatever's going on inside,
Yeah.
or ask yourself what you need. We have a wealth of information, and I believe our hearts also are so much stronger muscle than our brain,
Mm.
and they're proving that. And
Yeah.
even our gut has its own nervous system, and
Mm-hmm.
so we have so much incredible wisdom in our own bodies that we continue to outsource to screens. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
it's about like taking all this information, even while we're listening today, and we're taking this and going and using this, and turning this off when we're done, and like being silent for a little bit and just seeing
Mm-hmm.
what shows up.
I love that. There's so many things in that you said that I really resonate with. one of the big things that I really love about like your journey and your story is just the idea of not trying to like hide from your past or hide from your mistakes.
Mm.
I think that's what's really inspiring about you is that you've been able to, have a pretty big mistake in this big challenge in your life that you not only overcame but also like melded with and used to
Mm.
grow from, which is like I think it's something that a lot of us need to understand. We need to know how to fail. We need to know how to fail in a way that's going to help us grow, and that's just I love hearing that you're able to do that, and then also understanding that you don't have to do it alone. I love that the Lion's Den is all about like groups. It's all about collaboration with each other
Mm.
and getting more feedback and understanding. Because I agree with you. Kind of the therapist situation, it can be helpful for certain scenarios,
My
but
therapist is very helpful for me, but it's a different.
it's a
It's
whole
a,
different
yeah,
environment, right?
yeah.
Yeah, because but like kind of a more collaborative environment and
Hmm.
an environment where you can start to kind of hear like, oh, I'm not alone, and
Mm.
you can start to hear like, oh, okay, that's a good perspective, that's a good idea, and then I also just love what you said about holding each other accountable and having a
Mm.
more like accountability based growth system is just so healthy because I think that's what a lot of people really need.
Yeah,
Our individualistic culture is really like, well, it's all on you. You got
yeah,
to do it. You got to do it. And, obviously we do have to make the first steps, but by having people that we're accountable to, I think it really helps just solidify that and grow from there. Mostly
yeah,
because like humans evolved to be collaborative. We evolved because we're so social. So by being able to have other people accountable that we're accountable to and is accountable to us, we can actually start building those collaborative relationships. So
yeah.
I
I
really
agree.
love that. I love your journey. It's so awesome to see that and also see that you've really transcended all of the like mistakes you've ever made and you've been able to just really grow, and I'm assuming you're probably in a much better place than you ever were before, before you made those mistakes.
Wow. Yeah.
And
I
it
don't know
wouldn't
if
have been
I've thought about
possible.
that. Maybe
Yeah.
I have, but yeah,
Mhm.
I think so. I think so. I want to mirror a couple things you said too just now. I mean, I don't know if I've transcended every mistake, but
Mm.
I've become more aware of them,
Mm.
um, so that I can practice choosing differently.
Yeah.
Um, my wife and I, we really believe we're twin flames. She's a double Gemini. I'm a double
Mhm.
Scorpio. And I mean, it works when it works. And when it doesn't, it's like, it's intense. And
Mhm.
we often will be really upset with each other and saying the exact same thing, just in different ways. And we have
Mhm.
the same complaints with each other. And
Mhm.
uh, it's wild, but I believe there's an opportunity to make the people in our lives wrong, especially the people we love the most and closest to. But I really try to listen to her as my greatest teacher, like,
Mm.
and like, what is right about this that I'm not getting, or what can I learn from this? Because
Mhm.
we can study and talk and insight all we want and read and all that, but man, it's when two energies come together that's when the rubber meets the road. That's when the
Yeah.
work is like,
Mhm.
when those energies actually collide, how are you responding? And even then, you can't always do it in the moment because you're trying to do it when your nervous system is most literally. I've been reading about this too. Your nervous system in fight or flight literally shuts down
Mhm.
the part of you that does most of the reasoning
Mhm.
and emotional processing, and literally just tries to defend yourself. And so
Yeah.
whatever mechanism you have, so in that moment you can't access that hypothalamus the way you need
Yeah.
to sometimes. So you've literally got to train your body and your nervous system to do that. And so
Mm.
what's different about me today is I practice training my nervous system for
Mm.
that. And
Nice.
I practice breathing when I'm most activated. I practice taking space. I take cold showers every morning.
Mhm.
I move my body every day.
Mhm.
And then, the other thing about failure and making mistakes is, you're like, I can't remember exactly what you said. It was something like how you were able to turn that around. And I was just laughing because I was thinking, well, I tried to hide it, but
Mhm. It
I
was too
mean, it
big.
just blew up in
Yeah.
my face. It became on national television. I couldn't escape it. The more, whatever you resist persists.
Mm.
So I really
Mm-hmm.
believe these feelings have to be felt in order to be healed. And if we
Nice.
don't make time for our wellness, we'll make time for our illness. And failing is so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you've got, I mean, we spend our lives trying not to fail. And man, that's the whole point. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not perfection. Life isn't about just being happy. The older you get, the more people die in
Mm-hmm.
your life. And so if there's one thing I've also learned, like I lost my dad died last year and he was my
Mm-hmm.
best friend. What I learned from it is the beauty of grief, of
Mm.
pain, and to embrace these things and just learn from our failures and own them and talk about them and share them. My God, if we just shared like, hey, here's what I messed up on and here's what I learned every day. Like
Mm-hmm.
if leaders said that, like, my God, we would be moving mountains,
Yeah.
being
Right.
honest. And that's what the Lion's Den is about. If you can't do it anywhere else in your life and maybe you don't know how or you don't have
Mm-hmm.
practice,
Mm-hmm.
here's a place to practice being honest. Here's a place to
Mm.
practice, like, ooh, what if I say this out loud? Or, practice being like, I have always wanted to be a coach or a speaker, but I've been
Mm-hmm.
kind of too afraid to go after it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to practice shining your light, or, I've always wanted to learn guitar,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, like, anything's possible. I've seen people in their 60s and 70s start to turn their life around. And yeah, it may take more practice at some point because if you've been doing one thing the same way, it's just I believe like the great analogy of a record, right? And you've been playing the same track a certain way, the way you respond to everything is the same track. So as soon as you can become aware of that, then you
Mm.
can try to lift the needle up and play a different song. And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that first track goes away. It
Mm-hmm.
just means suddenly you have some other options in
Yeah.
your nervous system to choose from,
Nice.
and we can start to reprogram. And I just think failing is so important. And I used to be so ashamed from these things. And that's why I finally put this thing on my wall, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and I made a play out of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was so dark and so funny because it's like, what else am I going to do? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise I would have just had a panic attack and tried to, drink myself into oblivion or something. I
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't handle life. I couldn't even handle feelings. I couldn't handle my nervous system. I felt raw and exposed all the time.
Mm.
And you also mentioned something about, not doing it alone. And I tried that too. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It never works. It
No.
works for a while. You get really good at doing your own routine and suddenly someone comes and mixes it up. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, every time I let someone else in, even if it's like I don't use any of their ideas, just being open to hearing something else, I grow, I expand from that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
It's.
I'm all about holding space for other people as
Mm.
much as I can. I do a lot of talking here, but I really believe in listening and listening for people's greatness
Mm-hmm.
despite their mistakes, because failing's part of it. We know how to fail. We know how to beat ourselves up.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to do it alone. We
Mm-hmm.
know how to suffer. We don't actually know how to thrive. We don't
Yeah.
actually know how to ask for help. We don't actually know how to pause and breathe in our most intense moments. So those are the
Mm.
things, those little things can literally change our entire life.
Mm. I love that so much. I mean, it's. I love that you say that because that's something that I've really tried to do with the Kindness Rebellion here is trying to build back these like this need for collaboration, this need for each other, and a big, the beginning of that is understanding each other. And
Mm.
I can tell that that's a lot of like what you're doing and what the Lions Den is about is opening yourself up to understand each other and try to kind of build those connections, but also like knowing how you can grow from those interactions and grow
Mm-hmm.
from those connections. It kind of reminds me of I was listening to a podcast with Vandana Shiva, and she was talking about how she went and got her degree in like particle physics and stuff like that, and so she was kind of like
Mm.
socially groomed to just feel like she was sort of better than everybody. But then she went and started talking to these farmers, and she's like, I know nothing. She's like, these people know the land, they know this environment. And so when she started realizing that literally everything has intelligence, every being has intelligence, and that she can learn from that intelligence, she's like, I couldn't stop the growth. It just
Mm,
kept going, and
mm.
that's exactly what that made me think of. And I love that you're creating that space for people, especially men. And that's actually where I kind of wanted to move on to next. Is I wanted to know why, and obviously you're a man, so I think it resonates with you. But I think that there's also something deeper here as to how men deal with their emotions, or how we're socially conditioned to deal with our emotions. And I'd love to hear about kind of why you chose to help, kind of set up the Lion's Den to really help out men with these, and why you think that's lacking.
Um, got it. So I'm hearing kind of why men.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but in a
Um,
positive way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, I'm a man. I'm
Mm-hmm.
cisgendered, white presenting, hetero presenting, and I don't identify as all those things, but I do identify as male. And uh, I believe more in the Kinsey scale of sexuality. Like I'm attracted to humans,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm married to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I just say that also to normalize all that stuff. I've had depression and anxiety and PTSD. That doesn't set me aside from gender. I grew up in the South. I have a big sister who actually taught me a lot about feminism at a very young age, or actually about toxic masculinity. She challenged a lot of things I said, and I was really grateful for her. I still am
Mm-hmm.
for my big sister. She was protesting before anyone else. She was recycling before anyone else. So she kind of taught me to challenge and think about things objectively. And then my parents, God bless them, also traveled a lot. So they took us to France and Europe as a small kid. And so I really got to see. Oh, and then my dad worked with Haiti a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And as a minister, my mom worked with refugees and was a French teacher. So we had a lot of Haitians come to our home and
Mm-hmm.
Haitian art. And I grew up in a white neighborhood at the top of a hill overlooking the beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee. And right at the bottom was a very, very poor black neighborhood. And my best friend was black, and I didn't understand why things were so different for us. And my dad did a really good job of explaining that. He worked in civil rights. And so I just started to see the unjustness in the world and see and hear the racism. I mean, the way people spoke about each other behind their backs in the South is crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of, I just, I was always believed in love. And thank God for my dad, too. I think he really showed me how to be a sensitive man.
Mm-hmm.
He was also the first openly gay priest in the Atlanta diocese, in the Southern Diocese, which is huge because Atlanta
Wow.
is a very progressive place.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first man to say, I'm gay. And yet he loved my mom so much. So he was just, and then he owned his sexual abuse that he had been through. And there's like suicide and trauma in my family. My grandfather committed suicide. My godmother's committed suicide. My great great grandfather committed suicide. And so there's, oh, and actually, rather than committed suicide, I heard something different recently, a way someone said it. Um,
Like died by suicide.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
died by suicide. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I
Yeah.
really want to be mindful, like committing it's not yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they chose to end their life.
Yeah.
Um, and not to mention a bunch of friends, but as I studied mental health and as I became really unwell, and learned about, like, I had 4 generations of depression on both sides, and I'm like, well,
Mm.
how did my dad make it out?
Yeah.
His dad didn't even say I love you. Like, how did my dad make it out? Like, how did my
Mm-hmm.
dad get in touch with his emotions? Taught me that bullies are if someone's hurting you, they're probably hurting themselves.
Mm.
Um, that uh, my mom encouraged me to be a sensitive guy, even when it wasn't cool and I couldn't get a girlfriend or anyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why I ended up befriending the gay guys early on, and I loved it. I was accepted. I could be
Mm-hmm.
feminine, and then I
Mm-hmm.
started to say like, and thank God for my gay friends. They were the only guys who are like, you don't have to choose sexuality. You can just be yourself.
Mm.
Don't worry about what box you fit in. Thank God for New
Mm-hmm.
York City,
Yeah.
moving there and getting to try all that out in acting school and dancing and getting in my body. Like Latin culture, this they're already in their body. You know, we're so
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting because I'm white in this country. And I just always pulled for culture and dance and sexuality. And I just saw there were so few spaces for men,
Mm.
especially hetero male, white presenting, straight presenting. Like they're just so, and let's take race out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take the color of our skin out of it. Let's just say men. Like there are just so few spaces in our culture thus far for men.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like that. We in tribal cultures, indigenous cultures, it is like there is wisdom, there is eldership, there is
Mm-hmm.
counsel, but something about this individualist society has had us really pull away and be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my money, I'm
Yeah.
protecting my assets, this is my
Mm-hmm.
family, like you stay there, this is my ground, that's yours. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how like monogamy started. I mean, we were very communal
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yeah.
And all this way of being on our own is very new, actually, if you
Yeah.
study history. So
Mm-hmm.
male suicide is higher than ever, and my wife has all these women's groups, and there's so few men's groups. The only most of the ones I found were sober groups, which is
Mm-hmm.
how I found it.
Mm.
In sobriety, but then I started finding groups outside of that, and coaching
Mm.
groups and men's work, and I was like, what's that? And I started going to these men's weekends, and I was like, oh hell no, like I do not want to be part of this heteronormative, like ego aggressive, like
Mm.
men's weekends.
Yeah.
I grew up with that, I just didn't need it, and
Mm-hmm.
it turned out to be so different. And I saw all these guys were just like big teddy bears, like the toughest dudes. And I've sponsored dudes in jail in
Mm-hmm.
sobriety. Like I had a sponsee that he had multiple countless bodies under his belt
Mm.
from prison. He was literally the head of a Latin king in jail. And
Wow.
he was so, like, I watched him cry with me,
Mm.
and talk about his struggles. And, um, I just saw that as soon as I started, oh, and this is the other great thing. When I started coaching, I had all these inspirational videos, and I was trying to be like my other friend who's a coach, and they weren't really landing. People are like, that's good for you. In fact, some of my friends unfollowed me because they were like, my life sucks. I don't want to hear about this anymore.
Yeah.
And then I started sharing about how I was struggling,
Mm.
and men came out of the woodwork. Like, how in the world do you speak so openly and vulnerably and cry and blah, blah, blah. And I
Mm.
was like, oh,
This is
and it
where the
finally
need is.
got, this is
Mm-hmm.
my sensitivity was my superpower, my emotional life,
Mm.
and all of that. And that I had especially after my father died, I began to see I almost had a calling or a responsibility to lead men,
Mm.
and to be led by men. Like when I
Mm-hmm.
lead men in the Lion's Den and Dude School, I'm led by them. My father died while I was leading my first Lion's Den, and these
Mm.
guys were like, Ben, great that you're here. We don't know how you're here, why you're here,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to support you this
Oh,
week.
I love that.
Same
That's
thing
awesome.
when my wife, when we had when she, I keep struggling with this. Like we had a miscarriage, she
Yeah.
had a miscarriage,
Yeah.
and yeah, it affected both of us gravely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, carried by guys in my own program.
That's
Like
so
guys
awesome.
showed up who had multiple and lost children, and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow. I have guys who are like straight, gay, old, young, married, divorced, single, uh, you know, corporate leaders, um, uh, garage, garbage men, like whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
we really just have to learn to be together and stop
Mm.
focusing on how we're different. Even how I'm describing these things are like as if all these things are totally different people. We're
Mm-hmm.
just people. So I really
Yeah.
want to have a safe space, and I think men could use it more.
Yeah.
And that's just the missing I see right now. I'm sure for people, transgender, non-binary, it's even harder.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not those, and I will let the professionals who have been through that speak for that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I help everyone. It
Mm-hmm.
just so happens I focus on the Lion's Den for people who identify as men because of what I see in culture, and most of the stigmas men have
Mm-hmm.
absorbed.
Yeah. And I think there's clearly a huge need for it. I
Hmm.
mean, because like when you were talking about kind of the men's spaces that we do see, it almost feels like the only space that there was, or that was at least like shown to us, was kind of like a space to like harness power and to
Hmm.
use masculinity as a form of power and kind of control and domination in a lot of ways. And it felt really
Yeah.
reductive because it was like, oh, is that all it is to be a man? Like, is to just control and dominate and hold power over people? And that actually brings me into my kind of my big question. Is it almost feels like masculinity is like it almost feels like masculinity has been like this big destructive force, and I think it's been because of like our patriarchal systems and just what we've been shown is masculine and what we've been told is masculine. And so I'm kind of curious that in your experience, with the Lion's Den and trying to help men embrace their emotions and embrace like a wider spectrum of what it means to be masculine, what things about masculinity are virtuous and what is vice? Like what can we
Mm.
what is valuable that we should be holding on to, and what should we just be really stop giving energy to?
Well, masculine, those are great questions.
Mm.
Masculine and feminine are different from male genitals and female genitals.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So I want to say we, I mean, right there is the answer. Like, what works for us is our masculine and feminine. What it works against us is our lack of balance.
Mm.
Um, so I would say polarization is something that's pretty synonymous with a lot of relationships today,
Mm.
especially in probably even same sex relationships deal with this too. But I know for ones that are dealing with different gender that there is, a masculine and a feminine, and there sometimes if it gets too neutralized that it actually loses the needed polarization that actually
Mm.
attracts.
Yeah.
And so it's still important for people to tap into their masculine power and tap into their feminine, and I feel like some
Mm.
of us are literally underdeveloped in one or both of those areas, or overdeveloped in one or
Mhm.
both of those areas. So most of
Yeah.
us, even in today's culture, we're changing a little bit as millennials have grown up and the next generations are coming up and like creating our own jobs and things like that.
Mhm.
I think I'm 1 year past the elder millennial mark.
Mhm.
um, so, but either way, so my generation was still taught we had to do what our parents did, which is what our parents did from their parents, which who went through the depression. So it was all
Mhm.
scarcity mindset and needing to
Mhm.
do the safe job in order to have the safe career. And so
Mhm.
we're seeing that's made up,
Yeah.
and that we can literally create our own. So the other thing I think that falls under us is from masculinity is that most men and women, all genders, actually experience this pressure to need to shoulder the burden by ourselves
Mhm.
in order to make it through life. Especially
Mm.
if you grew up in a tough neighborhood, you learn to toughen up in order to make it through life. But that toughness only protects you from life or death. It doesn't actually help in interpersonal relationships.
Mhm.
It's literally about life or death there. So when we try to be tough in business situations, we actually close ourselves off from possibility,
Mm.
because our toughness is it's a tight, strong energy, and the feminine like teaches us to relax and open. And as soon as we
Mm.
open, like literally you can feel it when I open my hands in front of you versus like when
Mhm.
I'm like this, or I
Yeah.
go like this, like the energy in the room changes.
Mhm.
So imagine if we can start to soften in the areas where we need to tap into and train our bodies for resilience. Yes, that's all
Mhm.
good. So I think men often struggle with, and these are generalizations based on
Yeah.
what I see, but
Mm-hmm.
how to channel anger safely,
Mm-hmm.
and how to channel it, period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, B, how to uh, understand and express and name our emotions. I think there's a lot of challenges with that. Feeling that vulnerability equals weakness, even if we've been told that it doesn't, we still see other men behaving in ways that doesn't necessarily make us feel comfortable crying in public, right? We've also been told if we hold hands, that means we're different. So we're judged differently, right? If women hold hands, they may be friends, and so if we're too affectionate, right, that means something different about our sexuality or how we are with each other, right? So we shouldn't hug each other too long. We shouldn't say how we're really doing in our relationship, because that actually gives away our power, and that means we're weak, right? So all of those things, like giving away your power, telling your truth. I had a coach I was coaching say to me, "How in the world are you supposed to be vulnerable and tell your weaknesses and expect people to come pay you money?" I said, "Because it means you're human, dude." No one, everyone's going to be skeptical of the person who has it all together. My favorite moment ever in any video I've ever seen of Tony Robbins is his wife talking about her crying in the closet because she was so upset with him. I was like, finally, humanity, right? Like, it's great to talk about these things, but how do we operate interpersonally? And that is also going to change. I see that in business, these male ways, these masculine, hyper masculine ways of being, of competition versus collaboration. It's just those energies of hyper discipline with body and fitness, but like when it comes to making time for heart space, softening, like the four pillars of wellness are movement, exercise, nutrition, sleep, and stillness or meditation. Most of us lack being still, intimacy. I think a lot of men still especially feel less permission to be able to be intimate really with one another. I even have gay friends who struggle with that, because there's other things present, like bodies need to be something else, and we just protect ourselves, we protect our hearts, we think if we keep a distance that we're going to be safer, but actually we just cut ourselves off. So this is all an opportunity to connect. So I think, and then the parts of us that are virtuous are that stubbornness, that power, that pushing through, that not giving up, that shows up, that is important and necessary in life in the moments
Mm.
when we do really need to power through.
Yeah.
But look at why you feel like you need to power through something,
Mm.
right? Like if you were to die tomorrow, are you glad you powered through, or would you have just rather have put a healthy boundary on that and go be with your family for the final 4 hours of your life?
Mm-hmm.
Like what are our priorities? And so
Yeah.
that's the other thing I help men, help anyone, any kind of leader, any person look at the priorities in their life. You can be an amazing father, but how do you parent yourself?
Mm.
And
That's.
no one else is going to make time for you.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to learn to carve those out, just like you do for your job, for your the amount of time you take away from yourself to answer messages for people that could wait, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about learning to put healthier boundaries on things so that you can show up more powerfully.
Mm.
And I think all of these things, I mean, I sort of steered away from your question, but it's because I don't think it's black or white, but I do
Mm.
see men struggle. I'll name the some of the topics we look at the most: shame,
Mm-hmm.
sex, money, like shouldering the burden, feeling like we need to like carry the finance for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Anger, I already said that one. Intimacy, being a man, um, uh, masculine, feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a couple other ones I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are some of the ones. So any of those things, like, you know, we need to start taking care of ourselves. And I think if men actually did that, then it would actually allow women to fly even more. We could support them
Mm-hmm.
even more. We could
Yeah.
we could really listen for each other's greatness. Even we would have, we can, here's the thing, here's the gift I want to give men. If you quit trying to do everything by yourself, you actually empower the other people in your life to be greater, and then you
Mm.
shoulder lesson of this burden that is made up,
Mm-hmm.
so you feel better. And
Oh,
other people
right.
do too, because you've given them the gift of like, you've empowered them to help you. And
Mm-hmm.
like, oh wow, you want me to support you? You know, some people would love to hear their partner say, I could use some, would you, I could really use some help with this.
Mm. I love that.
Yeah.
Honestly, that entire answer was wonderful because I love the idea that it's never black or white. There's not necessarily a virtue and a vice that we just simply like, okay, we're gonna only focus on these and get rid of the others, because even the things that we think of as a vice, maybe just like the power or whatever. I love that you say that it's really about the context. It's about
Mm.
what you're really using it for. What are your priorities with these emotions, with these abilities and these skills? I love that. It's just so much more contextual and it's really holistic because it's really just trying to understand what is happening like within your psyche, within your body and your emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding. I love that you also talk about like channeling anger. That was
Mm.
something that I struggled with for a long time because I was more of a person that would block anger constantly. It was just like,
Mm.
I'm not allowed to feel this. It makes
Me
people
too.
uncomfortable. I
I was the
shouldn't.
ultimate nice guy. It's
Yes.
like, yeah,
Mm-hmm. And so
those
like
you got to be careful. This guy's got some rage underneath, you know.
exactly. And being able to channel that in a way that is like helping your priorities, it is
Yeah.
making you more effective, but not harming your relationships is very, very smart. And I love the way you answered that because
Hmm.
I think it's easy to say like, masculinity is toxic or toxic masculinity is ever
Mm.
pervasive. And I think there's a lot of toxic masculinity, but it sounds like it's more so the way that we are prioritizing those emotions and how we're not channeling them in a healthy way.
Yeah,
So I
we've made it
really love how
toxic.
you say
It's
that.
not inherently toxic. That's so
Mm.
like not cool. That doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've said that a bunch of times. I've worked with guys who won't. I even had a guest who wouldn't. He said I would really prefer us not use the word toxic in relation to masculinity, because masculinity is not toxic. It's what we give to it. It's the people and how we use
Mm.
it that is toxic. So it's not inherently. It has nothing to do with men or masculinity. It's what we've
Mm.
been taught and how we've used it and how we've been
Yeah.
programmed. And so it's literally, it's also, I mean, it's our responsibility and it's not our fault,
Mm.
because
I
this has
like
been
that.
programmed for generations. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not your fault and it's your responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's
Because you're part of this world.
I think it's interesting that you say that because I really agree. I feel like any form of toxicity that comes from masculinity, um, it, I think it's really cultivated within our culture. I think our
Mhm.
culture really draws it out of people because our culture is so focused on selfishness, greed, and like power and individualism. And so I actually wanted to ask you, do you find it difficult helping men when our culture is essentially like breeding this? It's like drawing this out of us.
Mm.
Do do you see that as an overall like roadblock, or is it, I guess,
I
how do
see
you
it as
view
an
that?
opportunity now. I see
Mm.
any challenge as an opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
anything that feels like a roadblock is just another opportunity to
Mm.
practice, listen, and learn from that.
Mm.
As much masculinity may be dramatized and beefed up and used in a negative like way today, uh, we really need to like teach our children, you know, our sons, about heart centered culture and about
Mm.
compassion and things like that. And I think that as much as what you're talking about is being bred, that also, you know, don't get it wrong, like us light workers, all this positive light that's coming out is like being raised as well. Like the vibrations of
Mm.
the energy workers, of the healers, of the coaches, of the mothers
Mm-hmm.
raising their children, they are like, you know, there's a lot of this up with we will no longer put
Mm-hmm.
energy and strong forces coming for change and healing and good. And we can
Mm.
use this crazy, wild chaos. We have 7 planets in retrograde right now, including Mercury.
Hmm.
The good news is it's coming to an end Monday, but everyone always says, "Oh, it's terrible. Everything's in retrograde." Yes, we can feel a lot of extra energy, but it's a time to
Mm-hmm.
channel it. This is also a new moon. This is also the time to harvest. This is also time to
Mm.
reap what we've sown and to keep planting seeds and go after and create newly. So there's a lot of good, positive, powerful energy being put into the universe and beyond now.
Mm, I like that. You're
Yeah.
right. It's easy. It's easy for me when I kind of am looking at systems thinking and trying to look at like one thing I focus on a lot is like our socioeconomic system. And I think of
Hmm.
how like our economic system fundamentally prioritizes things like greed and power and control and things like that. And so it's easy for me to just say like, well, that's the fundamental ideology that's being fed. But you're right, because with even if that is a very powerful force, there's always an equal and opposite reaction, and I think that that is growing very strongly.
Hmm.
It was something that it was something that I really found valuable that came out of like even COVID. A lot of
Mm,
people finally realized like we're all connected. We all like they're trying to separate us, and it's hurting us even more, kind of thing. Like
yeah.
we have to work with each other, and we have to care about each other. And that's kind of honestly what created the kindness rebellion, is just seeing that need there. And so I really love that you point that out. We're kind of reaching the end of our episode here, but I'd love to kind of uh, I'd love to leave the listeners with have you leave our listeners with just some ways of moving forward, I guess some action items that they can try to be held accountable to in order to really help themselves be well, and to collaborate and integrate with the other people in their lives a lot more
Mm.
effectively. So what could you suggest for them?
Ask questions.
Mm,
Get curious. Um, beginning, here's a great thing I give clients who are learning about their wellness for the first time. Just let's start with the 4 pillars of wellness
mm-hmm,
and just grade yourself from 1 to 10. Um, 10 being like a perfect score if you like, A through F or whatever.
mm-hmm,
Um, I try not to do anything that puts more shame on us, but let's just take inventory real quick.
mm-hmm,
Like if you're listening with us, like how is your exercise and movement on a scale from 1 to 10? Um, let's think about it. Say the first number that comes to your head. And then how is your sleep? How's your rest on a scale from 1 to 10?
mm-hmm,
Okay. The next, how is your nutrition? How do you feed yourself? What you put in your body, how is that on a scale from 1 to 10? And how is that like, how do you feel based on what you eat? Do you even know what you feel based on what you eat?
mm-hmm,
And then lastly, how much time do you make for your stillness, meditation, or intention setting?
mm-hmm,
Right. This is the one I'm going to leave out because this is the one we in this today's culture I see we're really, really lacking.
mm-hmm,
And then we blame people for going off the grid. Oh, those nomads in their vans. Those people are listening and quiet
mm-hmm,
and listening to nature and seeing the truth and asking what's needed. So, whether or not you have 4 kids under 4, like my coach, multi-million dollar businesses, or you are unemployed at home with all the time in the world, no matter what you're going through, if you start to just look at one action you could take to move each one of those things up 1 point,
mm-hmm,
just one action. Um, Most of the time it looks like setting your alarm for 15 minutes earlier and spending 5 minutes in silence or either listening to a guided meditation or writing what you're feeling or writing what you want your day to look like
mm-hmm,
or your week to look like or writing what you're grateful for. Just taking some moments to literally put positive action into the universe because every action does have a reaction. So if you write about what you want and how you want to feel when you have that, and if you meditate on how you would feel in your body right now if you had that actualized in your life right now, and you see that in reality now. You practice imagining it. Your brain doesn't even know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my dreams are more real than this podcast right now. So if I practice taking that time to really visualize and feel that, you are 1,000 times more likely to achieve that in your life,
Mm,
because you're actually training your system to listen for it and call for it. And so whatever you look for, you will see evidence. So if
mm,
you look for that I am a failure, you're going to see evidence. If you look for I am a
mm,
success, like, just, shift what you want to do. And I say just take a little bit of time to write that down. And the key to manifesting, I really find, is just to practice what it'd be like to have right now. But that could be like, what if I just love myself a little bit more today? What if I
mm,
practice saying yes to everything today? Or what if I practice saying no to everyone today? If
mm-hmm.
you're a yes man.
Yeah.
um so I try to say, like, what's one action you can do for your self-care that's going to move the needle just a little bit, that's attainable and realistic? And
Mm-hmm.
guys are like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times this week. Great. Can you go
Like,
take a walk today for 20 minutes? And then if you want to go to the gym tomorrow, do it. But, like, start with once,
mm-hmm.
right? Because we'll set ourselves up for failure. We know how to do that really well. So this is about
Mm-hmm.
reprogramming. So you have to take a different action if you want a different result. So
Mm-hmm.
do something that's kind to yourself,
Yeah.
right? And the kindness rebellion, right? The greatest thing you could do is do one thing that's kind to yourself. And if you are a known procrastinator and a known lazy, like, you love to splurge or be fat or watch lots of TV or indulge, whatever, today your assignment is to stop, to notice when you beat yourself up for that,
Mm,
because you're never going to be able to change that behavior while you're making yourself wrong for it.
mm-hmm.
There's a reason they call it losing weight, because if you've lost it, your body immediately thinks you have to go find it,
Mm,
right? So what if you just started being kind to yourself? Man, you could actually lose weight a lot easier. So
mm.
it's things like that. So let's start with kindness.
I love that. Wow. I just have to touch on some of the things you talked there because that's just so wonderful. Like I especially love that you mentioned, if you keep reminding yourself that you're a failure, you keep like telling yourself that, you're really just opening yourself up to start capturing more of that energy. Even on like a neurological level, this is something that people aren't really aware of a lot, is that when you are feeding a certain emotion, you're literally like you're activating a center of the brain that's going to map more negative emotions more closely to it. And in order to shift over
Mm.
to a more positive mindset that's going to map more positive experiences in your mind is a huge transition, and it's a lot of effort to make it happen. And so it's amazing how much of a difference just like literally being kind to yourself when you're in those negative moments can make, because you're trying to stop that mapping in your neural network from growing. You're literally
Yeah.
stopping it from doing that.
And try
And
to stop. That's hard. Just
yeah,
try to
right.
stop. That's why we have groups and stuff. So we don't have to do this
Mm-hmm.
alone. We don't have to be, I have so many alarms that remind me of things, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It'll remind me to be kind, or remind me
Mm-hmm.
to celebrate, or remind me to dance once a day, or remind me to
Mm-hmm.
have some fun sometimes.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And another thing you mentioned is not only just like allowing yourself to be kind when you are missing the mark, but being able to move through the shame and maybe the vulnerability that you're feeling in those moments. And sometimes I find myself like, if I can manage it, which is, it's difficult in the first place, but if I am feeling like,
It's unfamiliar, right? So this is the other
yes.
thing I have people
Mm-hmm.
do. Every time we say it's hard, I'm like, is it, or do you just have less practice at that?
Yeah, it's
Right? So
new.
consider, yeah, it's unfamiliar,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And so essentially like just allowing yourself to be able to move through it and almost feeling like a gratitude for the feelings, like maybe the shame is really, it's really toxic and it's really destructive, But one thing that my great friend Sam would always tell me is he's like, shame is a motivating emotion to do better. And so if you can actually feel
Hmm.
like a gratitude for that emotion and not shame yourself further just for having it, then you
Yeah.
can actually start to say like, well, maybe this is my psyche telling me that I could do better. And you just start to open up yourself in a new way.
Yeah.
So I really love that those key points and the ways that people can start to really help themselves so that they can really start helping each other and collaborating more.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you need some mental access to it, one great question from Access Consciousness. I also have a podcast called Wake Up Wednesdays that I do every Wednesday with a healer, Daniel Tuttle, and
Mm,
he taught me this, and it is how could this turn out better than I ever could imagine?
mm, that's awesome.
And so, no matter what I'm going through, or the other one is what's right about this that I'm not getting.
I like that.
When I'm in a place where I'm feeling stuck or really challenged by someone or something else, like, how could this turn out better than I ever imagined? And immediately you open yourself up to new possibilities. You know, you may never see things. We had, oh man, our bass player, had to cancel for like one of our biggest festivals coming up, and we were so bummed. And he had like it was just like it was some big thing. I think he has a wedding, something very important. Obviously, we just couldn't make it happen, and so we had to find another bass player, and we couldn't. It was so hard. The festivals in North Carolina, we were trying to find people online, ask people, every band we knew. We had these huge bands that were like, hell yeah, we'll play for you, and they're like, oh, sorry, we're on a different day, and we're only there for 24 hours. Um, and then this one band we love called Maddie Walsh and the Blind Spots ended up deciding somehow to stay an extra day, and we were like, stay with us. And then we realized we asked permission to work with their bass player, and their lead singer Maddie was like, yes. And so we're hiring him. He's incredible. And then Maddie, who my wife has looked up to for years and we're friends
Mhm.
now, asked if she could sing with us, and we were like, oh my god, we're glad Maddie was, you
That's
know,
so
we
awesome.
but we're all friends, like we love each other. But
Hmm.
you know, how could this turn out better than we ever imagined? Well, we're gonna have a pretty sick show, you know.
That's
Like, I went
awesome.
from freaking out. Oh, and we had zero backline, which means like we
Oh
were gonna
yeah.
get there and have no
Hmm.
amps or anything. And so I just
Oh.
asked for it,
Hmm.
and they're like, oh, we don't have this without contract. And I said, well, we're flying from New York.
Hmm.
This would make a huge difference. Guess
Hmm.
what I got in the mail today? An email saying, you got everything you asked for. And which
Nice.
type of organ would you like of these three? I'm like, hell yeah. You know, so ask and you shall receive. Be open to it. You
That's
never
awesome.
know what you could create. And yeah, so I just, big shout out to kindness and starting with ourselves. And thank you so much for having me on this
Of
podcast.
course. Thank you for coming on. It's been an awesome conversation. I love talking with you. It's a great opportunity, and you have a wonderful mind, and you have a very abundant mindset, and you resemble kindness in so many different ways. And so I
Oh,
really
thank you.
appreciate you coming on here. Thanks so
I
much,
love
Ben.
talking to you too. Wait, where are you located?
I'm in Utah.
Oh, you're in Utah. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
Well, if you're ever in New York, let's hang out. And when we come out to Utah, if there's any festivals that you
Hmm.
love or you would love to see a friend's band play at, hit me up.
I will make it out there. Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
I have a
I want to
band too,
come to
so I would
Utah.
let you know.
Oh, sweet, man. Well,
Yeah,
send me your music. Don't hold
sweet.
out on us.
Will do.
I see that sweet guitar behind you.
Oh yeah, I'm actually the drummer in that band, so it's kind of funny.
Watch out. All right.
Sweet.
Well,
Thanks so much.
yeah, let's talk about it. And for everybody listening, I just want to give another plug. Thank you so much for having me on here. If you do want to talk to me, I love to get on calls. I do free 15-minute coaching calls with people to set you up to talk about like how we could work together and how some of my work could make a difference in your life, and to also hear about what your dreams are and how I could support you. So that's easy. Hit me up on Instagram at Ben Curtis Official, or send me a message anywhere you find me around. And dude, you're getting well.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Hope you enjoyed that episode of the Kindness Rebellion. I loved talking with Ben. It was an amazing experience. Make sure to check out my episode with him as well and the rest of his podcast, Dude, You're Getting Well. And if you're interested in joining any of the Lion's Den programs, make sure to reach out to him. He did mention at the end of that video his Instagram handle, which is just Ben Curtis. So make sure to check that out. Like, share, subscribe, do whatever it is you do to let us know you like the podcast. And once again, thank you so much for listening. It's conversations like these that help us build a deeper understanding of understanding love and kindness so that we can change ourselves and change the world. Thanks so much for listening.